The pasuk says about the second of the plagues, and the frog ascended. Vatal hat Vaera. And the frog ascended. Now, when we talk about the plagues, the magos, we say, right? The tzvardim, the frogs. So, will the real amount of frogs please stand up? Was it one frog, as the pasuk says, and the frog ascended, or were there more than one frog? Because the Torah keeps on referring to the tzvardim, the frogs. So which one is it? So Rashi brings the midrashic interpretation, the first one, which is what we're going to talk about now. It was really one frog that came out of the river. The Egyptians hid it, and it streamed forth swarms and swarms of frogs, and that's why the Torah changes it from the frog to the frogs. Now that's a very interesting idea, because you would think, Menachem, did the Egyptians, were they happy with the frog that they had?
Definitely not.
Definitely not, right? When they hit the frog, and more frogs came out. Were they more happy?
No.
No, they were more sad. So, when you have a situation that you're not happy with, what do? You spend all your efforts to make the situation worse by continuing to hit the frog? Or would you say, hey, the more we hit the frog, the worse it is. So, what do you got to do? You got to put your hands behind your back. You got to do whatever you got to do. You got to make knossim, fines if you hit the frog, if you get near the frog. Whatever you got to do. But for God's sake, you don't hit the frogs and cause more frogs. When you have a fire coming, do you pour water on the fire to stop it? Or do you throw more logs into the fire to make it bigger? What would you do?
Pour the water.
Pour water. So what are they doing? What is going on? So the disciple of Gon, it says very, very interesting. I'm sure other people say it as well. I just saw it in his sefer. It says that you see from here that when a person is bekast, when a person is in a state of being angry and just uncontrolled panic and just freaking out, they do things that make no sense. And yeah, you're right. Logically, it would make no sense to continue to make the situation worse. But it's the nature of a person when they're panicked, when they just go nuts. They do things that really rationally don't make any sense. You know, the Monday morning quarterback, they realize they're like, oh, what? That made no sense. But when you're stuck in the heat of the situation, it's hard to realize that what you're doing really, really doesn't make any sense. So the lesson we learn from here is how terrible the midah of being bekast is. You know, to be angry, to be mad, you do things that don't make any sense. And also, another thing we learned is that sometimes when you're stuck in a heated situation, you have to take yourself out of the situation and look at it from a different point of view, not when you're actually in the situation. When you're actually, whoa, what do? Sometimes you do things that are irrational. So you take a step back, literally, and you look at it from a different view, then you might be able to realize that what you're doing is counterintuitive. A great Shabbos to us all.